The steel beam swings through the morning sky, 500 feet above the streets of Manhattan. A riveter balances on an 8-inch girder, his feet dangling over nothing but air and ambition. One slip means a fall that would take 7 seconds, 7 seconds to regret every choice that brought him to this moment. But he doesn't slip. None of them do. Because in the autumn of 1929, there's a race happening in the clouds, and these men are building the future, one red-hot rivet at a time. Welcome to Arthur's living history. How did a city already crowded with buildings suddenly decide to reach for the heavens, transforming its entire skyline in less than a decade?
Ladies and gentlemen, the economic principles we discuss today will...
Let me explain.
We must proceed with clarity.
Picture New York City in 1919. The Great War has ended, soldiers are returning home, and America stands as the world's new financial powerhouse. But Manhattan, this narrow island between two rivers, faces an impossible problem. Every bank, every business, every ambitious company wants an address here.
50,000, do I hear 6? 60,000 going once, going twice.
It's climbing too fast.
Land prices have soared beyond reason.
Get this rig moving. We've been stuck here for an hour.
You simply cannot build outward anymore.
Clear the way.
So they built upward.
This joint won't hold the weight distribution.
All right, I'll redraw the specifications for
Now, the technology existed before the 1920s. The steel frame, that revolutionary skeleton that lets buildings grow tall without thick, space-wasting walls, had been perfected in Chicago decades earlier. But New York in the 20s possessed something Chicago never had: unlimited money, unlimited ambition, and a psychological need to prove itself the center of the world. The Woolworth Building, completed in 1913, stands as the bridge between eras. 60 stories of neo-Gothic splendor, its cream-colored terracotta catching the sunrise like a cathedral. Frank Woolworth paid $13 million in cash. Cash, because he wanted no mortgages, no debt, nothing to tarnish his monument to the five and dime fortune. For nearly 2 decades, it would reign as the world's tallest building. But more importantly, it proved something crucial. People would pay premium rents to work in the clouds. Then came the 1920s proper, and everything changed at once. The economy exploded. Stock prices doubled, then doubled again. Fortunes appeared overnight.
I should say so.
And in Manhattan, this wealth needed somewhere to go, so it went vertical. Between 1921 and 1929, New York approved permits for over 400 new buildings exceeding 10 stories. The city was literally rebuilding itself upward, while people still worked in the old structures below.
Watch that beam, boys!
Walk down Fifth Avenue in 1925, and the sound hits you first. The pneumatic riveting guns, dozens of them, hundreds maybe, creating a mechanical symphony that drowns out even the automobile horns. A single riveting crew consisted of 4 men, the heater cooking rivets in a portable forge until they glowed cherry red, the catcher who'd snag the tossed rivet in a metal cone, the bucker-up holding a heavy steel bar against the rivet's back end, and the riveter himself driving the pneumatic gun against the rivet until the metal mushroomed into permanent connection. They could place 400 rivets in a day, and there were dozens of crews on every building site. The danger was extraordinary. These men worked without safety harnesses, without nets, without any of the protections we'd consider basic today. They walked on beams barely wider than their boots, sometimes in rain, sometimes in snow. The Mohawk ironworkers became legendary for this. Indigenous Americans from the Kanawake Reserve who seemed to possess no fear of heights whatsoever. They'd been recruited initially for bridge work, but the skyscraper boom made them invaluable. Many moved their families to Brooklyn, creating a community that would send ironworkers to Manhattan's construction sites for generations. But the real transformation wasn't just height, it was style. Enter Art Deco, arriving in New York like a well-dressed stranger from Paris. The 1925 Exposition Internationale in Paris had showcased this sleek, modern aesthetic. Geometric patterns, stylized motifs, a complete rejection of the fussy Victorian past. American architects saw it and recognized instantly. This was the visual language for their vertical city.
All right, men, bring her down steady.
Art Deco suited skyscrapers perfectly. Its emphasis on vertical lines drew the eye upward. Its geometric patterns worked beautifully in materials like aluminum, chrome, and stainless steel. And crucially, it looked modern without being cold, luxurious without being overstuffed. The Channin building, completed in 1929, wrapped its terracotta facade in intricate Art Deco patterns, waves and fish and spirals celebrating the theory of evolution of all things.
Trace the entire ascent of life, from the simplest organisms right here.
The designer claimed it represented humanity's upward progress.
Craftsmanship is simply stunning.
Yes, though I do.
Rather on the nose, perhaps, but the symbolism resonated. The Barclay Vesey building introduced something revolutionary: setbacks. New York's 1916 zoning law required buildings to step back as they rose, preventing them from creating permanent shadows on the streets below.
These blasted setback laws are ruining the skyline. We can't build anything.
Architects initially viewed this as a restriction, but then they realized these setbacks created a ziggurat effect that looked absolutely magnificent. Each terrace could be decorated, planted with gardens, turned into observation decks.
Paradise, isn't it?
The stepped skyscraper became New York's signature silhouette. Inside these buildings, life transformed just as dramatically. The elevator, essential to the entire enterprise, evolved from a utilitarian box into an Art Deco jewel. The Chrysler Building would install elevator doors of inlaid wood, each one depicting a different exotic theme. Building lobbies became public spaces, decorated with murals and sculptures and elaborate ceiling designs. The idea emerged that these weren't just office buildings, they were vertical cities, complete with restaurants, barbershops, medical offices, even radio studios. And then the race began. By 1928, an unspoken competition had ignited among the city's wealthiest men. Whoever built the world's tallest building wouldn't just have bragging rights, they'd have a permanent monument to their name, visible from anywhere in the city. The Woolworth Building had held the title for 15 years. Now, suddenly, 3 different projects aim to surpass it. The Bank of Manhattan building at 40 Wall Street came first. 71 stories designed by H. Craig Severance, planned to top out at 840 feet. The building rose quickly through 1929, its stonework gleaming in lower Manhattan. But Walter Chrysler had other ideas. Chrysler, the automobile magnate, had hired William Van Allen to design his headquarters on Lexington Avenue.
The crowning glory, the
Van Allen was flamboyant, brilliant, and absolutely determined to create something unprecedented. The Chrysler Building would be 77 stories, yes. But Van Allen had a secret. Hidden inside the building's dome constructed in complete secrecy, was a 125-foot stainless steel spire. The building materials were manufactured off-site and assembled inside the dome structure itself. Not even the construction workers knew the full plan.
All right, men. Double time on the riveting here. We're almost done with this level.
In November 1929,
Install the spire immediately. Let no one
with the
know
building
when
nearly
it is
complete,
done.
Van Allen gave the order. The spire was hoisted through the dome
Pull her up steady now. Watch the lines. Keep those rivets firing.
and assembled in just 90 minutes. The Chrysler Building shot to 1,046 feet, the world's tallest structure. Imagine the scene. This gleaming silver spire emerging from the building's crown like a magic trick, catching the afternoon sun and announcing itself to the entire city. Van Allen had won. Severance, working on 40 Wall Street just a few blocks away, must have felt his heart sink. His building was taller than the Woolworth, yes, but he'd been outmaneuvered spectacularly. The Chrysler Building remains one of the most beautiful structures ever built. Those terraced arches near the top, clad in silver-colored stainless steel with triangular windows, reference Chrysler automobile hubcaps. Gargoyles modeled after Chrysler hood ornaments jut from the 61st floor. The lobby features a ceiling mural depicting transportation and human achievement, rendered in reddish-brown and gold leaf. At night, the building was illuminated from within, turning the spire into a beacon visible for miles. Van Allen expected praise, perhaps a bonus. Instead, Chrysler refused to pay his full commission, claiming the architect had accepted kickbacks from contractors.
Is it true you signed away the rights?
The dispute went to court. Van Allen won eventually, but the controversy destroyed his career. He never designed another major building. The price of glory came high. But the Chrysler Building's reign lasted less than a year. John Jacob Raskob, a General Motors executive and fierce Chrysler rival, had begun planning something even more ambitious. He assembled a group of investors, secured the site of the old Waldorf Astoria Hotel, and hired the architectural firm Shreve, Lamb and Harmon.
So, the commission is simple. The world's tallest.
His instructions were simple. Build the world's tallest building and do it fast. The Empire State Building would rise to 1,250 feet, 85 stories. And the construction timeline was absolutely mad. They planned to complete it in just over a year. The construction began in March 1930, just as the reality of the 1929 stock market crash started settling over the city like a cold fog. Banks were failing, businesses closing, breadlines forming. Yet here was Raskob, pouring money into the biggest building project in history.
They expect us to believe these figures during a depression. Look at that.
Many thought him insane,
Really touched in the head.
It's a monument to excess, is what it is.
but the project created jobs. 3,000 workers at peak construction. The building rose at an astonishing rate, 4.5 stories per week.
All right, back her up tight against the line.
Material deliveries were scheduled with military precision. Steel arrived from Pittsburgh on barges, then was hoisted directly to where it was needed. Not a single piece of material sat in storage. The site had no room for waste. The workers, many of them recent immigrants, some of them former farmers who'd never seen a building above 3 stories, operated at heights that would make your stomach drop just thinking about it. That famous photograph, lunch atop a skyscraper, showing men eating sandwiches while sitting on a steel beam high above the city. That was taken during this era, probably at the RCA building construction. It captures something essential about these men. They'd normalized the impossible. The Empire State Building opened on May 1st, 1931. President Herbert Hoover pressed a button in Washington that lit up the building's lights. In the midst of the Great Depression, it stood as both triumph and tragedy. The world's tallest building, yet most of its office space remained empty for years. They called it the Empty State Building. But what a building it was. The Art Deco lobby, 3 stories high, featured marble from France, Germany, Italy, and Belgium. The elevator doors were made of German nickel silver, and the observation deck on the 86th floor offered views that seemed impossible. 50 miles in every direction on a clear day, 4 states visible at once. The mooring mast at the very top, that distinctive spire bringing the total height to 1,454 feet, was supposedly designed for dirigibles to dock. Imagine zeppelins floating above Manhattan, passengers disembarking directly into the world's tallest building.
Hold fast, men. She's breaking loose. We can't hold her.
In practice, it was completely impractical. The updrafts around the building were far too strong, and only one dirigible ever attempted to moor there, for 3 minutes. But the spire served its purpose, making the Empire State Building definitively taller than anything else on Earth. The building would hold that title for 40 years. These skyscrapers changed more than just the skyline. They changed how New Yorkers thought about their city, about possibility itself. You could stand on 34th Street and see something that didn't exist 18 months earlier, something that reached a quarter mile into the sky. If that was possible, what wasn't? The skyscrapers created their own weather patterns, wind tunnels at street level, shadows that moved across the city like sundials. They changed traffic patterns as thousands of workers converged on single addresses each morning. They changed the economy as service industries sprouted to feed and clothe and transport all these vertical workers.
Get the evening paper, see the pictures of the new metropolis.
And they changed culture. The skyscraper became America's pyramid, its Parthenon, its cathedral. European cities had history. New York had height. And in the 1920s, height meant modernity, meant progress, meant the future arriving ahead of schedule. The 1920s building boom ended with the Depression, of course. Construction essentially stopped for a decade. But the skyline they'd created remained, a permanent testament to that wild era when anything seemed possible if you had enough steel and enough nerve. Walking through New York today, you can still see them. The Chrysler Building spire catching the morning light, the Empire State Building dominating Midtown, dozens of Art Deco towers standing between their glass and steel descendants. They're historical landmarks now, protected from demolition, preserved as cultural treasures. But for one extraordinary decade, they were the future. They represented a city that refused to accept limitations, a generation of architects and engineers and iron workers who looked at the sky and saw not a ceiling, but an invitation. They built in the clouds because the ground was full, and in doing so they created a new kind of city, one that still shapes how we imagine urban life, how we picture ambition itself. The men who riveted those steel beams together, the architects who designed these soaring towers, the moguls who financed them, they couldn't have known they were creating icons. They thought they were just solving a problem. Too many people, too little space. But their solution became the defining image of American modernity. Every skyline in the world now references what they built in 1920s Manhattan. And every time someone sketches a city of the future, they draw tall buildings because those men taught us that the only direction for ambition is up. So that's the story of how New York learned to scrape the sky, how in less than 10 years a city transformed itself from horizontal to vertical, from earthbound to cloud-reaching. It's a story of wealth and risk, of beauty and danger, of men who walked on steel beams 500 feet in the air because someone needed to, and of the city they built that still takes your breath away when you turn a corner and see it rising above you. If you enjoyed this journey into history, consider subscribing to Arthur's Living History, where we bring the past to life, one story at a time. I'm Arthur, and I want to know, what historical event should I bring to life next? Let me know in the comments.